It was August 28, 1966, Candlestick Park in San Francisco. The Beatles had just finished what would become their final official concert. 55 minutes of music, drowned out by 25,000 screaming fans. The band was exhausted, frustrated, ready to escape to the safety of their dressing room and never look back. But someone had made a promise that would change everything. John Lennon was the last to leave the stage that night. He stood for a moment in the wings, looking back at the chaos they were leaving behind. The screaming, the madness, the life he wasn't sure he wanted anymore. "Come on, John," George called from the tunnel. "Let's get out of here before they rush the stage." Yeah, in a minute." That's when Neil Aspinall, their road manager, appeared with a clipboard and a nervous expression. "John, there's something you need to know. If it's another interview, tell them to sod off. It's not an interview, it's a fan, a young man. He's been waiting outside since 6 this morning. Security tried to send him home 3 times, but he won't leave." John sighed. "Neil, there are 25,000 fans out there. What makes this one special?" Neil looked uncomfortable. "He's blind, John, completely blind. And he says he's not leaving until he meets you." The words hit John like a physical blow. "What?" "His name is Thomas Whitmore, 17 years old, from Oakland. His mother brought him. She says this is all he's talked about for 6 months. The doctors told him he's going to lose his hearing too. Progressive condition, no cure." John felt something shift in his chest. He's going blind and deaf? Already blind. The hearing is next. Maybe a year, maybe less. He wants to hear your voice before he can't anymore. The hallway was silent, except for the distant roar of the crowd outside. George and Paul had already disappeared into the dressing room. Ringo was waiting by the door, watching John's face carefully. "What are you going to do?" Ringo asked quietly. John looked at his bandmate, then at Neil. "Bring him backstage," John said. "Now." Thomas Whitmore had been blind since he was 12 years old. A rare genetic condition that the doctors said would eventually take everything. First his sight, then his hearing, then probably his life. He was 17 now, living on borrowed time. But Thomas Whitmore wasn't sad. He was grateful. Grateful for every sound he could still hear. Every voice, every note of music, especially the Beatles. Thomas had discovered the Beatles in 1963, back when he could still see. He'd watched them on the Ed Sullivan Show with his eyes wide, memorizing every movement, every expression. Then, 6 months later, the darkness came. Slowly at first, shapes becoming fuzzy, colors bleeding away. Then completely, permanently. But the music stayed. Thomas's mother, Ellen Whitmore, later told reporters what happened during those dark months after her son lost his vision. He was devastated, angry. He didn't want to leave his room, didn't want to learn Braille, didn't want to accept his new reality. Then one day I heard music coming from his room. It was "I Wanna Hold Your Hand," playing on repeat, over and over. When I went in to check on him, Thomas was sitting on his bed, tears streaming down his face, but he was smiling. He said, "Mom, I can see them when I listen." I can see everything. From that moment on, Thomas Whitmore lived in sound. He learned to play guitar by ear. He memorized every Beatles song. He could identify which member was singing within the first 3 words. And he developed a dream. He wanted to meet John Lennon before the silence came for him too. His mother had written to Brian Epstein, the Beatles manager, 17 times. 17 letters explaining her son's condition, begging for just 5 minutes, just a chance to say thank you. 16 letters went unanswered. The 17th got a 1-sentence reply. "If you can get him to the San Francisco concert, I'll see what I can do." So Ellen Whitmore took every dollar she'd saved. She bought 2 tickets. She and Thomas took a bus from Oakland to San Francisco, and they waited outside Candlestick Park for 11 hours. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any of the exclusive content that's coming up. And while you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Neil Aspinall led Ellen and Thomas through the concrete maze beneath Candlestick Park. Thomas was wearing his best shirt, white with thin blue stripes, and his hand gripped his mother's arm tightly. Not because he was nervous, but because he wanted to remember everything about this moment. The echo of their footsteps on the concrete, the distant hum of the crowd, the smell of cigarette smoke and sweat. Right this way, Mrs. Whitmore, Neil said gently. John's waiting in the dressing room. Thomas stopped walking. John? John Lennon? That's right, son. Not all of them? Just John? Neil smiled, though Thomas couldn't see it. John specifically asked to meet you alone, said he wanted to give you his full attention. When they reached the dressing room door, Ellen whispered to her son, "Are you ready?" Thomas nodded, his face pale but determined. Neil knocked twice and opened the door. For 45 minutes, John Lennon sat with Thomas Whitmore and just talked. John told Thomas stories he'd never told anyone publicly, about growing up in Liverpool, about his mother, Julia, who died when he was 17. "She was the one who taught me to play guitar," John said softly. "Used to sing to me all the time. After she died, music was the only way I could still feel close to her." Thomas listened, his face turned toward John, absorbing every word. "Is that why you write sad songs sometimes? Even the happy ones feel a little sad?" John was stunned. "How did you know that?" "I can hear it, in your voice when you sing, like you're always looking for something you lost." No one had ever described John's music that way before. They talked about songwriting, about the process, about where ideas came from. John picked up an acoustic guitar that was leaning against the wall. "You play, Thomas?" "A little. By ear. I learned your songs." "Show me." Thomas hesitated, then took the guitar. His fingers found the strings instinctively. He started playing "In My Life." Not perfectly. Some of the chords were wrong, but the feeling was there. Every note mattered. John listened in complete silence. When Thomas finished, John's voice was thick with emotion. "That was beautiful, mate. Really beautiful." "It's my favorite song," Thomas said, "because it's about remembering, and that's all I have now. Memories of things I used to see. But the memories are enough." John looked at Ellen, who was crying silently by the door. Then he looked back at Thomas. "I want to tell you something, Thomas. Something I haven't told many people. Okay? Sometimes I hate what we've become. The screaming crowds." The room was small and cluttered, clothes everywhere, half-empty bottles, the smell of cologne and exhaustion. And in the center of it all, sitting on a worn couch, was John Lennon. He'd changed out of his stage clothes into jeans and a black turtleneck. His hair was damp with sweat. He looked tired. But when he saw Thomas, something in his expression softened. "Thomas," John said, standing up. "Come in, mate. I've been waiting for you." Thomas heard John's voice and froze. That voice, the voice he'd listened to thousands of times on records. The voice that had pulled him out of darkness. It was real. I can't believe it," Thomas stammered. John walked over and gently took Thomas's hand. "Easy, lad. No need to be nervous. It's just me." John guided Thomas to the couch and sat down beside him. Ellen stood by the door, tears already streaming down her face. "Neil told me about your condition," John said quietly. "I'm sorry, Thomas. That's not fair. Not fair at all. It's okay, Thomas said, his voice steadier now. I've had 5 years to get used to the dark, but I wanted to meet you before I can't hear you anymore. John was quiet for a moment. What do you want to know? John asked. What can I do for you in the time we have? Thomas turned his head toward John's voice. Can you just talk to me? I want to remember what your voice sounds like, not on a record, the real thing. What happened next would become one of the most beautiful moments in Beatles history. John Lennon didn't give Thomas an autograph he couldn't see. He didn't take a photo Thomas would never look at. Instead, John talked, deep, shaking sobs. Ellen moved to comfort him, but John held up a hand, stopping her. Let him feel it, John said quietly. He's earned this. After a few moments, Thomas composed himself. Thank you, he whispered. I'll take care of it. I promise. I know you will. But John wasn't done. He sat back down beside Thomas and said something that would change the young man's life forever. Thomas, I want to record something, just for you. Your own private recording that no one else will ever hear. What? John gestured to Neil, who quickly set up a portable tape recorder. I'm going to sing for you. Just me and the guitar. No studio, no band, no audience. Just a song for Thomas Whitmore. Which song? John thought for a moment. What's your favorite? Besides In My Life, Across the Universe, Thomas said immediately. We haven't recorded that yet, John said, surprised. How do you know it? I heard about it. Someone said you were working on it. Is it real? John smiled. Yeah, it's real. We haven't finished it yet, but I can play you what we have so far. What happened next was captured on a tape that only 3 people ever heard. John Lennon, alone with an acoustic guitar, sang Across the Universe for a blind 17-year-old boy. The version he sang that night was different from any recording that would later be released. Slower, more intimate, more raw. When he got to the line, "Nothing's gonna change my world," his voice broke slightly. Because in that moment, John understood something profound. This boy's world was changing. Darkness, then silence, then nothing. The fame, the fakeness of it all. Tonight was supposed to be our last concert ever, because I can't stand it anymore. Thomas's face showed surprise. But talking to you right now? This is why I started making music in the first place. Not for stadiums full of people who can't even hear us play. For moments like this, where music actually connects 2 people. Your music saved my life, Thomas said quietly. When I lost my sight, I wanted to die. But then I heard your songs, and I realized I could still see things, just differently, through sound, through feeling. John had to look away. He'd been told many times that his music mattered. Critics praised it. Fans screamed for it. But this was different. This was someone who literally couldn't survive without it. John stood up and walked to a corner of the dressing room where their equipment was piled. Thomas, I want to give you something. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. John returned carrying his Rickenbacker guitar, the one he'd played on stage that night. This is my guitar. I've played it on every tour, every recording session. It's been with me through everything. He placed it in Thomas's hands. Thomas's fingers touched the strings, and his entire body went rigid. I can't accept this. This is too much. Yes, you can, and you will. But this is yours. This is your guitar. And now it's yours, John said firmly. I want you to have it. When your hearing starts to go, I want you to be able to touch this and remember. Remember this night. Remember that your life matters. That music isn't just about hearing. It's about feeling. Thomas started crying. Not quiet tears, but music, real music, honest music, could live in memory forever. After the song ended, John turned off the tape recorder and handed it to Thomas. This is yours, your private concert. When things get hard, when the silence comes, You can ask someone to play this for you, and you'll remember tonight." Thomas held the tape like it was made of glass. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything, mate." But Thomas did have something to say. "John, can I ask you for one more thing? Anything. Can I touch your face so I can remember what you look like?" John nodded, forgetting for a moment that Thomas couldn't see the gesture. "Of course." Thomas reached out with trembling hands. His fingers traced John's face carefully, the sharp nose, the thin lips, the slight stubble on his chin. "You're real," Thomas whispered. "All this time you were just a voice in my head, but you're real." "I'm real," John confirmed quietly. Thomas's hands dropped. "Thank you for the guitar, for the song, for treating me like I matter." "You do matter, Thomas. Don't ever forget that." Ellen stepped forward, knowing their time was running out. "We should go," she said gently. "I'm sure John has other obligations." "No," John said quickly. "No obligations. Nothing more important than this." But he knew she was right. As Neil prepared to escort Thomas and his mother out, John made a decision. "Thomas, I want you to promise me something. Anything. When the silence comes, don't give up. Music isn't just something you hear. It's something you feel. It's in vibrations, in memories, in the space between the notes." Thomas nodded, understanding. "And one more thing," John added. "Keep playing, even when you can't hear yourself. Especially when you can't hear yourself. Because that's when music becomes pure, when it's just feeling." Thomas hugged John tightly. "I'll never forget you," he said. "And I'll never forget you either, mate." As Thomas and Ellen walked out of the dressing room, John stood in the doorway watching them go. Neil approached quietly. "That was good of you, John." John didn't respond for a moment. Then he said something that revealed how deeply the meeting had affected him. "I needed that more than he did. It's been over 55 years since that night at Candlestick Park." The Beatles never performed another official concert. John Lennon went on to create solo work that changed music history. But very few people know what happened to Thomas Whitmore, or why that meeting mattered so much to both of them. Thomas lost his hearing completely in 1968. By 1970, he was living in complete silence and darkness. But he never stopped playing music. Using John's guitar, Thomas learned to feel vibrations. He would place his hand on the body of the guitar while he played, sensing the notes through touch alone. He taught himself to compose entirely in his mind, writing songs he would never hear. In 1972, Thomas released an album of instrumental guitar music. The critics called it hauntingly beautiful and impossibly emotional for someone who can't hear what he's playing. John Lennon bought 50 copies and sent them to everyone he knew. When a journalist asked John about it, he said something remarkable. "Thomas Whitmore taught me that music isn't about the ears, it's about the soul. He's more of a musician than most people who have all their senses." But here's the part of the story that almost no one knows. In 1980, just weeks before he died, John Lennon was working on a new album. One of the songs he was composing was dedicated to Thomas. It was called "The Boy Who Listened in the Dark." John never got to finish it, but the demo tapes exist. In John's voice, you can hear him singing about a young man who lost everything and found music anyway. About how sometimes the people we think we're helping end up saving us instead. After John died, Yoko sent Thomas a letter. In it, she included a note that John had written but never mailed. The note said, "Thomas, I think about our meeting often. You reminded me why music matters. Not for fame, not for money, but for connection, for memory, for the moments when two souls meet and recognize each other. Thank you for that gift. Thank you for seeing me even though you're blind. Love, John." Thomas Whitmore passed away in 2019 at the age of 70. He was buried with two things: the tape recording of John singing to him and the Rickenbacker guitar. His family donated his musical compositions to the Library of Congress. all 47 songs he wrote in complete silence. The meeting between John Lennon and Thomas Whitmore lasted less than an hour, but it changed both their lives forever. It taught John that fame means nothing compared to genuine human connection. It taught Thomas that losing your senses doesn't mean losing yourself. And it teaches all of us something profound. The most important moments in life aren't the ones everyone sees. They're the quiet ones, the private ones. The moments when someone stops being a legend and becomes human. When John Lennon gave Thomas Whitmore his guitar that night, he wasn't just giving away an instrument. He was giving someone permission to keep creating even when the world goes dark and silent. And Thomas did exactly that. He created beauty in the darkness. He found music in the silence. And he proved that John Lennon was right. Nothing's gonna change my world, as long as I remember what really matters. If this story of connection, compassion, and the true meaning of music moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that our limitations don't define us. Our courage does. Have you ever had a brief encounter that changed your entire perspective on life? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to ring that notification bell for more untold stories about the moments that reveal what it means to be human.